Not sure what's going on with Randon Fontenette, but he can be one of the top defenders in the SEC in 2025.
You are Locked On Vandy, your daily podcast on the Vanderbilt Commodores, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yo, welcome into the Locked On Vandy podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Corey Burton. Thanks for making Locked On Vandy your first listen each and every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube as a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Now, today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. So on today's episode, we're going to take a look at Vandy baseball. How are we going to define success ahead of the 2025 season? What does that look like? What does the future of the quarterback room look like beyond Diego Pavia? We know what he brings to the table. I guess he's going to go to court and petition for another 10 years so that he can play his entire career at Vandy. I don't know. Probably not. But what does the future of that room look like? And, of course, there's some stuff going on with Randon Fontenette, a very cryptic message on social media. Break that down. What's going on with him? Is it a good decision? So here's the thing. The message on social media is a little bit tricky. And here's why. Because he says, at the end of the day, I'm going to do what's best for me. That was the post. And the post also came with the standard, like, hey, he's going to scrub his account of, all his things, Vandy, from his bio. And that quote could really mean a whole lot of things. Okay. And full disclosure, full disclaimer, I could totally be overreacting to this, and it could mean absolutely nothing. Or it could mean that there's some teams in his ear that are trying to get him to come play for them. So here's the thing. Here's my thoughts about that. Okay. Randon Fontenette's about to enter the NFL after this season. Like, he's got one more season, and he's going to the next level, and he will play and play very well at the next level. And so if there is a team out there that's offering him the bag, that's offering him a ton of money, to be honest, I think Vandy's going to offer a good enough package in NIL, and I think it would be a mistake. That's my opinion. I think it would be a mistake if he transferred after the spring. If he was going to transfer, to me, I think he should have did it right after the season if he was going to do it. Now, that alone, I think, is going to make it challenging for him in his draft stock, because you're going to a fresh team. There's no guarantees that it's going to work out. Let's say he goes somewhere in the Big Ten and it just doesn't work out. Like, he doesn't play as well and he gets drafted, and just based on talent, let's say he gets drafted in the 7th round and then doesn't make the team. I think for his development, I think for a lot of things, I think staying would be the right move. I think if some team comes with some like extraordinary offer, like $6 million or something ridiculous, then sure. Like, I couldn't turn that down. But as far as, like, if it's close, I'm going to stay in a system that actually features me as a defender. Like, I think if he stays with Clark Lee, he's going to be one of the top defenders in 2025 in the SEC. He's going to be all conference. He's going to be a ball player. His versatility is what's going to make Vandy's defense really good. It's what's going to make them get to the next level. Now, the added depth is going to help. But to be honest, like, he's going to be everywhere. I think Clark Lee having another year to kind of scheme and to kind of figure out, okay, he knows what he's got now. He knows what he has in Randon Fontenette. He knows what he has in a lot of players. The roster is set up for Fontenette to be the best, to be the top guy in that safety hybrid role. And so it's going to be a situation to where it would just almost be not smart. And, and you have to think these NFL scouts and GMs and front office people, if he leaves, that would be his third transfer. There's going to be some questions raised. Like, hey, do you have any sort of loyalty? Do you understand that, like, yeah, I get moving find a better situation. I get the reasons, right? I don't doubt the reasons. And I don't even know if he wants to move, but let's just say hypothetically he does, right? I don't doubt the reasons that anybody wants to move, right? But when you break it down, when you're making a decision like this, you have to consider, okay, where am I at my development process? Am I going to be wherever I'm going to be for more years, for at least 2 seasons, right? And is it going to be worth it for me to go learn a new system, learn a new school, enroll, get used to a brand new locker room, try to figure out the coaching staff, try to get a situation for what? And to me, I just don't think it's worth it. If it was me and the money wasn't just ridiculous and it wasn't ridiculously far apart as far as like, hey, Vandy's offered me like $500,000 and, Ohio State just offered me $7 million. Like if it's not something ridiculous like that, I would just rather say, okay, you know what? I'm going to be a baller in this defense. I'm going to thrive in Clark Lea's defense because, hey, he really wants to feature me, and I'm going to be the next CJ Taylor. Like CJ Taylor's role was kind of like a Swiss Army knife too. He was kind of just here, there, and everywhere, and he was a really good player in this defense. And I think Randon Fontenette can be the same guy, and he can be somebody who's going to rack up a lot of tackles. He's always going to be around the football, and I think he's going to put a lot of great film out there because if you look at this schedule right here, guess what? Scouts are going to be there to see South Carolina for sure. They'll probably be there to see Virginia Tech. Guess what? I don't know if you know this about Alabama. They're a good program still. They have a lot of talent. So the NFL still respects University of Alabama, even though the fans don't. The NFL scouts still respect LSU. They respect Missouri now because there's some players that's come out. Texas, Auburn, Kentucky, Tennessee. Like you have so many opportunities to play live in front of scouts. I think it. I don't know. Like I think the situation is, to me, seems like it's too good at Vandy right now for him to really move. Now, if he was a sophomore and he was going to have at least, he was going to plan to go somewhere for at least 2 years, unless he just completely balled out. Okay, sure. It's not a huge deal, but it's one of those things where. He's going to be a defensive captain. He's going to get a chance to show his leadership skills. He's going to get a chance to show these NFL people not just his ability on the field, because no matter where he plays, if he plays at Vandy, Incarnate Word, University of Hawaii, wherever, University of the Cumberlands, I don't care, wherever he plays, yeah, his ability, his skills, his talent is going to show through. That's not really what I'm talking about. But I think some of the intangible stuff about moving to a new, about transferring to a new situation, about, being in a leadership role versus more of a support role. Like you go into a team that already has leadership kind of embedded in the team. Like, I think there's some factors there that, like, the NFL is going to have questions like, hey, why are you leaving again? That's a legitimate thing. Like, why are you transferring 3 times? What is going on? The narrative shifts, and I'm not saying that he's this type of person, but the narrative is going to shift to that, and they're going to wonder, is it you or is it the situations that you're leaving? Like TCU, you left TCU. Why'd you leave TCU? Well, I left because of this. Okay. You went to Vandy, seemingly better situation, right? You got into a defense that really showcased your abilities. You have a well-respected defensive head coach. As far as his defensive acumen, I think people in the NFL respect what Clark Lee brings to the table. As a head coach, there's still some things left to be desired, I guess, that he still has to prove. But for the most part, just as a pure defensive mind, I think there's a lot of people that would say Clark Lee is one of the best to do it. So you're going to leave that situation for what? That's what you got to ask yourself. What am I leaving my current situation where I'm going to be probably not a star, probably the star of this defense? You're going to have a key leadership role in the locker room. You're basically the Diego Pavia of the defense. You're going to leave that with an SEC schedule, probably an NIL that'll get matched, And all of that to do what? Is it, am I going to go to LSU? Well, how is it better at LSU than it is at Vandy? Or, and I get you're going to like a program that has a chance to make the college football playoff. Okay, I get all that. But like, if you want to play in the NFL, like I think, it's a chance to really kind of understand that, hey, what am I chasing here? What are my priorities? Do I want to win versus, do I want to give myself the best chance I can get to play at the next level? Like, I think, you got to kind of figure out what is worth it to you. Okay. And if things are close, I don't see any scenario where staying is a great idea. Now, I say all of that. I don't think it's a good idea for Randon Fontenette to leave. If I was advising him, I would say, look, stay. You got a great situation here. You're in good shape with the NFL, probably. You're in a good training program. Don't break that up, and just go to see. Okay, the grass is greener somewhere. There's some red flags that go with that. I get you want to. I don't know. I get why. I understand why. I just don't think it's a great idea. Now, I could say all of this for no reason in particular at all. This could just be something completely random. There could be something not much to it. And if there isn't, then so be it. I still think it'd be a bad idea for him to leave if that were the case. Now, NIL, of course, in the NIL period, you do need to pony up. And, somebody's going to bid $7 million at that point, just let them. Just let them, right? If Miami wants to pony up another $5 million, I don't know where all this money's coming from, but okay, let them pony up. Let them pony up, $12 million for two players, right? Let's just be honest about that. All right. So Randon Fontenette, you are well respected here. The reason why I'm saying it's a bad idea, you're well respected here. You got a great leadership role. You're in a defense that's going to showcase your skills to the maximum, and you have a chance to kind of help Vandy with a renaissance. All right. You have a chance to be all of that, and NFL teams will take notice on that. So to me, that's the best thing you can do. Stay put, ball out, go to the next level, win you a Super Bowl, whatever it is you want to do. Okay. That would be my advice to you if I was advising you, if you were willing to listen to what I have to say. That's where I would go. Randon Fontenette needs to stay. That's probably the best scenario for him, to be honest. Unless, again, the only caveat is this. If the NIL money, if the dollars are just astronomically different, fine, go. And I won't have any and if you leave, I won't have any hard feelings. I still would think it'd be a bad idea. Wouldn't have any hard feelings because you got to do what you got to do. But I just think it'd be a bad idea, truthfully. So, what is the future of the quarterback room? Well, we'll talk about that next. All right. Looking for tickets to your next big event? Well, whether it's a concert, comedy show, sports game, you can find the right ticket in the right place. And I know that can be a headache finding that. But with Gametime Picks, it's never been easier. So let me tell you how it works. With Gametime Picks, the app does all the hard work for you. It curates the best deals so you don't have to waste time searching through endless ticket listings. I've been using Gametime Picks for a while now, and here's why I love it. The curated deals make it super simple to find great tickets at a great price no matter what. And it leaves you with no more sifting through thousands of options either. I recently grabbed a super deal for a prime seat, and I could not believe the value. It was an absolute steal. And the seat view feature is a game changer. Before I even hit buy, I can see exactly what my seat will look like in the venue. It's so reassuring. And I can be like, hey, listen, here's what our seats are going to look like, right? And the best part, that's not even the best part, though. That's an amazing part. That's my favorite part. But that's not even the best part. The best part is you're covered with Gametime's lowest price guarantee. If you find a better deal somewhere else, they'll refund you 110% of the difference. Plus, your tickets are guaranteed to be delivered on time with easy cancellation options if something comes up. So, are you ready to make your next event even better? Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. And speaking of guarantees, I guarantee if you go to Joint Chiropractic, you will not regret that decision. They will get you right. I need to go back. I haven't been back in a while. A lot of stuff happening. The month of January was about as stressful and busy as it possibly could be, and I need to get that worked out a little bit. Dr. Nolan, I could use a little work on that. So Joint Chiropractic is definitely somewhere that I'm going to go here in the very near future. So they're going to take care of you. They have great treatment plans. It's a customized treatment plan that can be customizable on every visit. It can be totally different based on your needs. That's the beautiful part about it. It's based on what you need, not what they think you need, right? So they assess you every single time you go in, and it's amazing. They also have really good membership options, so you're not breaking the bank to go get adjusted, but they have some good options on some things membership-wise. So go visit one of the 900 locations nationwide, preferably the one nearest you. Like, I'm not going to go visit one in Boca Raton, Florida, because I don't live there. So, but when I go to Naples, I might very well see if there's one in Naples, Florida. I will probably go visit and get cracked while I'm down there. So take advantage of that. Do it. Joint Chiropractic. You will not be sorry. All right. Thanks for making Locked On Vandy your first listen each and every day. I appreciate it. And if you need a second listen, Locked On SEC. Chris Gordy is phenomenal, and he does a phenomenal job. So make sure you check him out as well. So Locked On SEC, great show. We squad up every Thursday. It drops, and they are interesting to say the least. So make sure you check out those shows, and check out the other shows from around the league. Locked On Ole Miss, Locked On Auburn, Locked On Bulldogs, Locked On LSU, Locked On Arkansas. John Neighbors is an absolute legend, by the way. Locked On Bama, Locked On Texas, Locked On Missouri. John Miller, one of my favorite guys on the channel. He does a phenomenal job with Locked On Missouri. So make sure you check out all those shows, and make sure you just go through Vandy's schedule and just check out those shows if you need a second listen. So anyway, future of the quarterback room. Okay, here's the thing. We all know what Diego Pavia brings to the table, and it has been a godsend, his ability to win that court case and come back. I think it's crucial. Okay. And normally when you have a lot of talent at the quarterback position, you're worried about it transferring. And, sometimes a guy coming back is not necessarily a great thing if you've recruited well at that position. But to be honest, I think with the way this offense is constructed and the specific guys we have in that room, I think it's probably a really good thing that Pavia is coming back, because I think, the leadership that he's able to show is going to be something that these guys can really take in after a year, especially Jack Elliott, who's a new 3-star quarterback who by a lot of people is described as a Diego Pavia clone. So that can't be a bad thing to be. So, the valuable leadership lessons that you're going to learn, how to carry yourself, how to play with confidence, and kind of how to positively use cockiness, right? Because Diego Pavia, as a football player, is pretty dang cocky. And as a quarterback, you kind of have to be. And how does he, and it's a unique situation. It's almost like magic how he is as cocky as he is, but it's not detrimental. It's not detrimental to the relationships in the locker room. It's not detrimental to how he plays. It actually has the opposite effect. Like, usually when you hear the word cocky, you're like, oh God, this guy's so full of it. He thinks he's, God's gift to football, and a lot of times that can have negative and detrimental effects to your team and to your own personal performance. With Diego Pavia, it's like his fuel, right? And he gets everybody to believe, and he plays at a high level because of it. So I think a lot of the intangible stuff that he's able to show and able to be able to help develop in these younger quarterbacks, I think is a good thing. And of course, getting to know the system, because I don't think Tim Beck and Jerry Kill are really going anywhere. I think Jerry Kill's happy where he is and in the role he's in. I don't think he could get this role anywhere else. Although, it is Jerry Kill, but not every place offers that kind of role. Tim Beck, I think, is I don't know where he's at on the head coach train, on the head coach search thing, or what his aspirations are, or if he just is settling into being a career coordinator for as long as Clark Lee will have him around. I don't think that's a bad thing either. So I think these quarterbacks need to get to know this offense. And what better way to do it is a guy that's played in this offense for now 4 years. And so if you can get the best out of Jeremy St. Hilaire, Jack Elliott, Whit Muschamp, even Blaise Berlowitz and Drew Dickey, like, you have guys competing for that role. Now, are all these guys going to be there after the spring portal period? No, not a chance. Somebody is transferring, right? Probably it wouldn't shock me if Drew Dickey entered in the portal in the spring period. I think, honestly, the reason he hadn't done it already is because I think he wants that degree. And I think he's going to finish his degree, and then he's going to transfer. And so that is something that I think would be, would be a great thing. I think he's a good quarterback, and he could be a great quarterback for somebody. He could probably even be one for Vandy. If Diego Pavia wasn't around, Drew Dickey would have every chance under the sun to win the starting quarterback job. Like, I think he can play the position and play it well. Unfortunately for him, I just don't think that's going to be at Vandy, because I think what's behind him with St. Hilaire and Edwards and even Muschamp. I don't know that Muschamp is going to stay around, but I think the two rising sophomores and the freshmen, I think, are the future of this position. So it's going to be, I'm going to find it hard pressed for Berlowitz or Dickey to really have a role beyond this season. And Berlowitz might transfer as well. That wouldn't shock me either, right? And I wouldn't blame him either, but it's going to be based on who's going to win that QB2 job, who's going to win the backup job. The backup job is the first in line for the starter of 2026, and it'll be very telling who's going to win that job throughout spring and throughout fall camp, because I don't think that's going to be. I don't think the backup quarterback job is going to be one that's settled on right after the spring, unless somebody just absolutely pulls away, which at this point, nothing would shock me, but I don't think anybody's going to pull away. I think we're pretty fairly evenly matched, but things that I've read, things that I've heard, Jeremy St. Hilaire, this is not including Jack Elliott and his assessment, but St. Hilaire is probably, from what I've heard, is the best quarterback on the roster. So it's going to be interesting nonetheless to see what happens at this quarterback position moving forward. I think the identity of the offense will shift based on the abilities of the quarterback. That's kind of what Tim Beck and Jerry Kill are good at. And so it won't be the heavy option, quick game type scenario. I think you'll be able to push the ball a lot more downfield, probably with somebody like St. Hilaire. So we'll kind of see how that's affected. And I'm curious to see. I can't wait for this quarterback race in 2026. That's going to be a fun one to kind of break down. So that's kind of what I think as of right now, pre-spring of the quarterback room. And it's going to be interesting to see how they come out of spring practice at that position. So, but Vandy baseball, how do we define success? The Vandy boys that season is not far away. How do we define success? I'll tell you next. PrizePicks. Yeah, the big game is almost here. No better way to make it even more exciting than with PrizePicks, the best place for daily fantasy sports. With over 10 million members and billions in winnings awarded, PrizePicks makes it fun and simple to get in on the action. So here's how it works. You pick more or less on at least two players' projections, and if you're right, you can win up to 1,000 times your cash. PrizePicks even has a free pick for the game where Pat Mahomes only needs to throw 1 yard to win. Pair that with one more correct pick, and guess what? You are cashing out. So this week, I'm looking at the board and selecting more for Travis Kelce on receiving yards and more for quarterback's passing yardage. What do I love most? Fast, safe withdrawals. When I win, my cash is in my account in as little as 15 minutes. So check out the promos tab and tail any of the super sweet Millie winners big game lineups. If you tail a lineup that goes 3 for 3, you can win a split of $1 million in promo funds. So download the app today. Use code LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONCollege for $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, run your game. All right, wrapping up here on a Thursday. Vandy boys. It's going to be an interesting season for them. I think, with the way last year went, all the talent on the roster, but it didn't quite pan out to where the talent level matched the results, and things were up and down. And a lot of it was injury, and a lot of it was, just inconsistency, young guys in the lineup, not being able to find a lineup that works, and not being able to have any power. So, it's going to be, this is going to be a very telling season as far as what Vandy can do in the NIL era. Is Tim Corbin willing to? Now, he made some changes on the coaching staff, so a new approach might be the ticket. But we're going to see. So, what does success look like, right? When we walk away from this season, and we want to say whether or not we think Vandy was successful or not, how do we define that? How do we measure that? What is it going to take for us for me to sit here and for you guys to listen and chime in over, whether you agree or disagree that Vandy was successful or unsuccessful. Okay. But to do that, we have to look backwards. Okay. Now, last season got off to a great start. Had some really good pitching, was trying to find its way with hitting. Never really did. Had some inconsistencies, and of course, with pitching in college baseball, it's just inconsistent by nature. You're going to have a really good game followed by a stinker, and when I say a stinker, it just means that with metal bats, you could just get hit hard in one outing, and it kind of ruins the perception of what you are as a pitcher. But in college baseball, everybody knows that, so they don't really judge you based on one outing, good or bad. So I think the inconsistencies were too great. Vandy could not score runs. They had a hard time putting runs across the plate on a consistent basis. And everything seemed to be a struggle. And then teams would, as the season wore on, teams knew this, and they would just jump all over the pitchers early in the game. And there wasn't much Vandy could do about it. And then they kind of got it together. They made a tournament run. They were able to make a regional as a 2 seed, despite having a very tough season, and they got bounced in really bad fashion. So, and the expectation is always, everybody's going to say, well, with Vandy baseball, it's national championship or bust, right? It's College World Series title or bust. That's the obvious answer for everybody when it comes to Vanderbilt baseball. Why? Because they've done it twice. And so that's kind of the expectation under Tim Corbin, and that's kind of the program he's built. That's actually a good thing. Now, how they go about, talking about those and discussing those expectations and holding those expectations and holding Vandy accountable for those expectations is a different story, right? But this is what needs to happen, right? We need to set realistic expectations. We need to set a realistic definition of success. I think if we walk away and Vandy gets eliminated in the super regionals, I still think that's a successful season, right? Vandy, I think, to prove that they have shown some steps in the right direction as a program, I think their run output needs to increase. I think their batting average and their power numbers need to increase. They've got to find some pop in that lineup. If they want a chance to go to Omaha and much less compete for the national championship in Omaha, they've got to find those power numbers. And those power numbers usually lead to good run support, which usually allows pitchers to not have to have the greatest outing of all time every time they step on the mound. That's a lot of pressure for a pitcher, right? And then for pitching, you got to stay healthy. You got to find some bullpen guys. You've got to find a closer. And you've got to find 3 weekend starters that people fear. Like, the problem with Vandy's lineup last year is there wasn't anybody in that lineup that you truly feared. There wasn't anybody that stepped on that mound that you truly feared. That as an opposing coach, you were like, this is he's on the mound. Okay, we're just going to concede this one. Or, oh God, there's runners in scoring position, 1 out, and this guy's coming to plate. Like Vandy didn't have that guy. Everyone was just okay, and it was a bunch of contact hitters, small ball type lineup, and it doesn't really drive fear into anybody. And part of college baseball is having a stressed out pitcher up there. That's an advantage. That's a huge advantage for a batter, because a stressed out pitcher in college baseball is going to leave 1 out over the plate, and you're going to crush it 500 feet onto Memorial Gym. So that's kind of where I'm getting at. So very simply put, and I'll get more in depth about this on a future episode, but more in depth in this is you need pop in the lineup. You need an ace or 2 or hell 3, but you need at least 1 ace that somebody's scared of. You need at least, at the bare minimum, you need 2 hitters in the lineup that everyone is afraid of, and everyone is ecstatic when they are on a break from your lineup, right? And then you need to have that on a consistent basis, and you need a bullpen that can come in and stabilize. They don't have to dominate; they just have to stabilize, throw pitches across the plate, and get guys to put it in play. That's what it is. And that's kind of the key for Vanderbilt. If they can do that, they can win, because they're well coached. When everything is equal, coaching matters. But the problem for Vanderbilt last year is not everything was equal. So coaching didn't matter as much. And so they need to get into a position to where coaching matters, because Tim Corbin is elite. And so that's kind of where I see it there. Find some power, find an ace, and build on that. Get some speed, get a couple speed guys, get a couple power guys, get an ace that is just everyone's afraid of. Kind of like what they had with David Price, truthfully. So, but that's all we got. That's all I got. And we'll see you back here next time to recap Randon Fontenette. If you do happen to catch this episode, please don't leave. Just don't leave. Don't go. Don't go. You're wanted here. And we're expecting big things out of you. So don't go. Anyway, the rest of you, anchor down. Peace out. Behave yourselves. Peace.